Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you might be. I'm not sure we necessarily have the audience there for that yet, but we might get there. We might get there. We'll see. Wanted to briefly talk about this new leader that they revealed today, Bail Organa. I think, in my mind, he's probably the most interesting Secrets of Power leader to date that they've showed. And just kind of talk about some early ideas, some early theory crafts, and kind of how I might go around putting together a toolbox and a tool and a deck for this guy. So just briefly going over him. Action Exhaust 1. If a unit was defeated this phase, you return one of your resources to your hand, and if you do, you basically put a resource on the top row into your row. And most notably about this leader, he can deploy on 4, but you have to discard 2 cards, and you can do it as many times as you want throughout the game. Obviously, discarding 2 cards is a lot, but I think the idea of this guy is to be drawing cards with your action ability, as well as plotting cards and smuggling cards and things of that, and some other things that I'll get into that I think are particularly interesting with this guy. His flip side is obviously very weak in terms of stats, but if you are plotting and smuggling things, you are potentially healing a solid amount of damage here. Obviously, 4 costs leans more aggro, but the leader side leans more mid-rangey, late-gamey in terms of kind of sustaining and trying to get to that end game. So it's an interesting toolbox. I think there's a lot of different ways that we can start to think about this leader, and I'm very excited to kind of give him a go and put together a deck list for him. So some early thoughts that I have, obviously, are plot. The green is, or the command, I'll try and refer to them as the aspects that they are instead of just the colors. But a lot of the cards that they've shown so far are already on that 4 cost curve, so every time you deploy him, which can be multiple times through the game, we can do these cards, right? We can do a Naboo Royal Starship to give him Raid 2 and Overwhelm 3 times a game every time we deploy him. We can do Unveiled Might 3 times a game if we wanted to. I think Jar Jar's really good because it's super low curve. I don't think you're ever wanting to play this on curve outside of plot, but it can be really interesting to give him all of these boosts every time you deploy him. And then on top of plot, obviously we have our favorite smuggle here. You know, that helps again with the card draw and mitigating that discarding 2 effect, and it also helps heal every time we're smuggling cards out from the row. So these are obviously, we have Tech as the smuggling king here, and can be really interesting as the game progresses, and I could really see a kind of a mill style deck coming out, honestly, if we're cycling through, and then maybe we Aggrieved Parliamentarian our own deck or something like that, because we're just healing over and over again every time we're smuggling and plotting things out. Cassian is obviously a smuggling notable as well, and then I included the Millennium Falcon because going through some of the cards that we already have, there were a lot of cutting cards that I thought were particularly interesting with this leader as well, which leads me to my next kind of thought, which is a bunch of ambushing cards. There's a lot of good ambushing in green and, command and cunning. I wanted to start with Callus, continues that draw engine. I think he's particularly good to help, again, draw if we're not trying to do an aggro style. I think the Marauder is very interesting as well, because we can kind of stack our deck every time we're discarding to ramp really hard. Having played Finnick multiple times in a Cad Bane style deck, I think Finnick is really interesting as well, because she gives us that ambush, and then every time we're discarding, we can really set up our discard pile to really maximize that on attack effect. Blue Leader, just your quintessential ambushing card, just so versatile, so obviously we'd want that. And then kind of this new guy that they showed today, this Dresslian Commandos, being able to ambush and plot at the same time is very, very good, I think. Being able to action cheat like that, and again, mitigating that discard. As we let the Andor Lo-Fi play in the background, we'll lead on to our next point here. And I think this is kind of an off-the-wall one a little bit, but some of these Twilight bases, you know, every time you deploy a leader, you get this effect. So Bail being able to deploy multiple times a game, you can create 2 Battle Droid tokens over and over and over and over again, maybe revisit Coordinate. But one of my favorite ideas is honestly the Shadow Collective camp. If we're plotting and smuggling, and then we're also drawing a card every time we deploy Bail, we effectively mitigate that -2 discard. by drawing the one card and then playing from our row. So as you can see, there's a lot going on this slide. I think that it kind of helps to illustrate just how versatile and diverse I think this leader could potentially be. We have all kinds of different aspects here, and I really think that Bail is a very interesting leader that can be played in a lot of different ways, and I'm really excited to give him a try as we continue through spoiler season here and putting together some sort of theory crafted deck. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.